Hey, what's up guys, back at it again. Yesterday I released a supercar speed test. Today we're doing the sports cars on the short 0.63 mile track. I did over 25 cars and here are the top 10. So let's go ahead and start this off with the 10th place, the Flash GT. Not a bad car, came out with one of the more recent updates. I haven't used it that much, to be honest with you. I don't really like the style of it too much, but just from doing these speed tests, the car does seem to have pretty good acceleration, pretty good top speed, and it has, I would say, pretty good handling as well. There are some other cars, as you're going to see, that are probably priced roughly the same, that perform a little bit better than this car, but however, this car is still a pretty decent car. You know, I don't really know. Like I said, I don't really like the cars that much, but it could be a pretty decent car for you guys if you have it. So I ended up doing the supercar speed test yesterday. I will be doing part 2, which will be on a longer 1 mile track. I will do the same thing with these sports cars, and I'm going to go ahead and test out all the classes as well. So actually a really disappointing car. People have been waiting for this car forever. The Jester Classic came out not too long ago, and I gotta say, right now on my screen it seems like it's kind of frozen right now. Hopefully this switches, but this car is kind of disappointing. It should be a lot faster than you know what it shows, but I guess we'll have to go ahead and see. It comes in at 9th place, and again, like I said, my screen was just frozen there. I don't know what happened. It happened the same thing yesterday in the supercar speed test for one of the cars. Hopefully it doesn't happen for the rest of these clips, but this car was highly anticipated. I guess it's just for the body style, but you know, the car really does not meet the expectations. Again, it is not a bad car. It has great handling. The acceleration and top speed are kind of lacking on this car, and it is really disappointing to say the least. So here we go. We have the Coil Raiden, which is in the 8th spot. Now, I'll admit, I was doing some tests on a lot of these cars as I do. What the hell is going on my screen again? It looks like it is frozen. We'll go ahead and see. I'll do the whole clip, and then I'll come back and check it out. But I ended up doing some testing. I didn't have this car, so I ended up testing the original one, and it was actually almost as fast as a lot of the cars in the top 10. So I went out and bought it, customized it, and then went ahead and did this clip here. So this car is another Fister. I'm sorry, no it isn't. It's a Coil Raiden, but it is another electric car is what I actually meant to say. It seems like a lot of the Fister cars, especially the newer ones, are electric, but this car is a pretty decent car. I actually really like this car. The handling's I think fantastic, but it does lack a little top speed and acceleration. So the next car we're going to go ahead and jump up to is place number 7. It is the Hot Ring Sabre. Now this car most people probably wouldn't think of as one of the fastest cars, although this is a race car. You know, it kind of does leave a little to the imagination here as far as the styling for, you know, a race car. But this car is pretty decent. I'm not sure if the price tag on this car really matches up with what it's worth. It came in at about 21.48, and you'll notice from spots 8 all the way down to basically spot 4, the cars are really similar as far as the speed. They're only a couple tenths of a second off. So I actually do like this car. I like doing the Hot Ring Sabre race circuit. I think it's actually a lot of fun, especially when you get a lot of people in there. But again, this car, not a bad car, not one of my top cars that I would go ahead and race with. But again, that all depends on the racetrack and I guess what you have available for your sports cars. Now, I don't race sports cars all that much, so there's only a couple that I actually use. This one right here is another one that I ended up buying specifically just for this this test. I raced the unmodified version of it, and it was actually pretty quick. So I went ahead and bought it, customized it, and then we're going to go ahead and include it. So we have the Tropos Rally, which is in the 6th slot. And for some reason on my screen, yeah, it just kicked in. It's been freezing for about a second, so I don't know what's going on. Again, I apologize for that. But this car is actually pretty sick. You know, this is one of my favorite cars to go ahead and do the steel missions with. And the car actually does have some pretty good acceleration. It has great handling as well, which obviously you would expect from a rally car. So that one finished in at 21.45. Then we got next up on the list is actually kind of a surprise. Out of all the Comets, you know, there's only 2 on this list, and the Comet Safari creeps into spot number 5. I think this car is pretty unique. I really love driving this car around. I love the paint job and the paint scheme you can put on this car and how you can customize it. It probably isn't the best to go ahead and race with, and you'll see as we get from spots 1 to 4 there's some better options. But the Comet Safari was pretty surprising that this ended up reaching as high as 5 on this list. Again, I raced most of these cars 2 or 3 times and ended up taking the best time for each car. One car that is kind of disappointment that's not on this list is the 770. I know that's a favorite from a lot of people from a while ago. It still is pretty decent, but it did not make the top 10 as far as on this 0.63 mile speed track. So we got a speed of 21.38 for the Comet Safari. Now we jump up to the Neon, which is probably one of my favorites out of these sports cars. There's a couple of them that I really like on this list, and you know, the other 2 that I really like are you know, in the top 3. So the Neon, I think, is really cool as far as the customizations on this car. Although it is probably one of the best looking cars out of these sports cars in my opinion, it does lack a little bit compared to the other top 3, and the time is pretty noticeable between 4 and then the top 3 spots. So here we go with the Neon. Car has great handling. It is another electric car, so it's pretty deceiving as far as the speed. But again, I really love this car. I just wish it was a little faster, then it would be my favorite sports car. But it's pretty close up there. So it has a time of 21.32. Then we move into the top 3. We have the next car up on the list here is, oh, I guess I can cut that out. So anyway, we have the race car, the Masacero race car, or Machero race car, however the hell you want to pronounce this. But anyway, it looks like all these clips are doing the same thing. Sometimes it's a little deceiving when I go ahead and watch the video over, but it does look like these clips are kind of freezing right now, still on the screen where I can go ahead and select the car. So hopefully we can do something about that, because that's going to be annoying as hell. But this car actually, for a race car, it should be kind of high up on this list. There are some other cars that are disappointments, and like they say, the supercars, where you have the RE7B, you have the Tyrus. Some of those cars are straight up race cars, and they suck. Another car that I want to go ahead and throw in here is the Lynx. For the price you pay for the Lynx, that definitely should be in the top 5. It's not. That's a shame, and really makes the car not worth it. So we have a 21.08 speed for the race car there. Next car up, we have probably, I'd say, my favorite to race with out of all the sports cars, and that is the Comet SR. If you look at that paint job right there, it's actually pretty sick. Looks like it's glowing in the dark. But out of all the Comets, this is the fastest. But the thing is, you know, this one ends up with time about a second slower than our first fastest car on the list. But again, this is the fastest of the Comets. It is my favorite. I kind of do like the way you can customize this car. I think it has better handling than the car that finishes in first, although the car in first has just incredible top speed and acceleration. But this one's not too far behind. It's only about a second behind on this 0.63 mile course, so that is pretty manageable. And depending on the courses, you know, this may be a better option than the car that we have in first place, which has been in first place ever since the day it came out. And it's pretty much one of the fastest cars in the game, regardless of class, and that is the Ocelot Pariah. This car is really quick. It's only one of the cars that end up getting a speed of sub 20 on this, and it's basically in the 19s. We had the Tesseract for the supercars that ends up finishing in 19, pretty much the same exact speed as the Pariah here. And then you have some other cars in like the sports classics and those types of cars that could compete with these cars, ranging in at around 19 seconds. So I will go ahead and match up the winners of all these classes against each other to find out which is the fastest car in GTA. But again, the Pariah has great speed. The only thing I have an issue with the Pariah is it spins out way too much for me. So I don't really like the control on this car, so that's why I prefer the Comet SR, although this one is good if everybody else is using a Pariah. So thanks again for watching. Hopefully the information helps you guys out, and I'll see you next time.